The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.
It's Brian and Kenzie on Q101.
Ahoy! Let's go! We're waking up Chicago. Turn up the radio. It's time to start the show. On Q101 with the morning crew. Ahoy! Let's go! Welcome to the morning show.
And I know it's not Monday, but I need this.
It's just one of those days where you don't want to wake up. Everybody sucks. You don't really know why, but you want to justify ripping someone's head off. No human contact, and if you interact, your life is on contract. Your best bet is to stay away, mother. It's just one of those days. It's all about the he says, she says bullshit. I think you better quit, let it slip, or you'll be leaving with a fat lip.
Yes, leaving with a fat lip indeed. Wow, what a day yesterday. Before we get moving forward here at 6:04, it's 43 degrees. Brian and Kenzie on Q101, and have to really thank everybody that came out, of course, to the broadcast.
Broadcasting live from Almost Home Tavern and Grill in Chicago.
This was yesterday, of course.
Opening day with Brian and Kenzie.
Q101.
I just love the music on here.
That was delightful.
Let's listen to this nice little guitar riff here.
Which guitarist does this remind you of?
Maybe Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits.
Hard to argue.
It's the Go Cubs Go, but the elevator music version.
I'm not entirely convinced this isn't a Red Hot Chili Peppers demo, and this isn't Frusciante doing Go Cubs Go.
Not a bad take.
Hey, Chicago, what do you say? Is Anthony Kiedis doing it? How would Anthony Kiedis do the Go Cubs Go song?
Go dang a dang dang go dang dang go Cubs go. Ding a dang 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 dang. All right, well listen, we want to thank everybody who came out to Almost Home. What a great bar. Almost Home Tavern and Grill at Clark and Grace. The broadcast yesterday was outstanding. What fun with Vienna Beef stopping by. We had CBS 2 stop by. Jackie Kostek stopped by, and my guy Tom. And just all the listeners, mainly, that just stopped out there and had a blast, whether you were going to the game or not. And it turned out to be a historic game that we'll talk about more in an hour when we do sports. And Twisted Tea, the owner Joe, all those guys, and the staff are just doing all that whole thing. I can't get over this music.
It kind of sounds like Bop.
Bop, go Cubs, Bop. Yeah, but listen, we got a huge show for you today. So Kenzie joining us now back just here in a little bit. But we also have 21 Pilots tickets. We're going to move things around a little bit. We usually do Clash with Kenzie at 7:10. We get you on the phones. Instead, at 7:20, 21 Pilots. We have a song scramble for you. We'll get Clash with Kenzie coming up at 8:10 for Bonnaroo tickets.
That's a good one.
And then speaking of the Chili Peppers, a chance to go see the Chili Peppers anywhere in the country at 9 o'clock. That means you can go to places well, I don't believe Red Rocks really exists. I don't even know if they got a show coming up there. But I just think it's one of these things that people like Photoshop the mountains behind them. But I do know places like the Gorge out in Pacific Northwest exists. I mean, I haven't been there, so maybe it doesn't. But you can go see the Chili Peppers anywhere. So 7:20, 8:10, 9. Those are the hot spots for the free stuff for you today with Brian and Kenzie on Q101.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.
It's Brian and Kenzie on Q101. And coming up here, a fact that makes your brain go. Now, this one's a little tricky, so listen carefully. Go with me on this one. There's a president that did something, and no other president before him had ever done it. But every president after him has done it completely like he did it. Okay? I know it's a little tricky to... You follow it? Okay, good. I'll just give you one. Guess at 312-591-8300. We'll give you the answer at 6:30, but you can make some guesses. I'll just get this one out of the way. It's not assassinate someone.
That's good.
Because sometimes, presidents... there was a Simpsons episode once where they were joking about how presidents get 3 unquestioned assassinations.
I believe that. I fully believe that.
People that disappear.
Yeah.
There was that one email back in the day. It was called Dead Clinton Friends. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was amazing. He's going back to AOL times with that one.
Explain that to me real quick. It was an email address that listed people the Clintons had killed?
Well, it said people that had disappeared under the Clintons' reign that are probably, and they're all their friends that are dead.
Uh-huh.
And it's an interesting list. I'll try to find it if that exists somewhere, that list. And at the time, when it came out, you're like, yeah. Like someone that was supposed to come forward that was like a Monica Lewinsky situation.
Yeah.
And they got killed in a car accident.
Sort of like a Boeing type. Like, I'm not saying the Biden administration maybe assassinated the Boeing whistleblower.
Yeah.
But can't rule it out.
That story's not getting enough attention.
No, this is my whole point.
There's a whistleblower for Boeing that died in his truck. And apparently, allegedly, quote fingers, killed himself. But everybody said he was I know people say this all the time about something that this tragic thing happens to. But he was happy. He didn't talk about doing something like this.
I believe, and I apologize if this is misinformation, but I believe he said, hey, if I die, I didn't do it, to his friends. To be clear.
It's the same thing I say where if I ever don't show up for work one day, start dragging the Chicago River because my relatives are from Philly. My in-laws, I should say.
Yeah.
Megan's, and if I ever do something like a little bit that might upset her, I may end up in the river.
You think Megan's parents would get you before I do? Because I'll stand up for Megan's honor.
Well, you can't get me in the river.
No, you're pretty heavy.
That's right.
Brian and Kenzie in the morning. And Chicago's alternative all day.
Q101.
Brian and Kenzie in the morning. And Chicago's alternative all day.
Q101.
All right, time for a fact that makes your brain just go. Now, I talked about a president that did something, and once he did it, every president after has done this. But every president before him had not done it. Are you ready for this? We had a lot of great guesses actually coming here. Wear facial hair, have facial hair. That's not it. Bill from Yorkville checked in, brought a dog to the White House.
Okay.
No, not that. Personal transportation. President Taft was the first one to have a car. Someone checked in on me with that one.
Is President Taft the one that got stuck in the bathtub?
I don't think so.
He was a big guy, though, right?
I don't know much about Taft.
Oh, really? He's one of my favorites.
Is he?
I can't get enough of Taft. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure he got stuck in a bathtub.
Okay, check on that while I go through a few more here.
Yes.
Oh, Ronald Reagan started the Easter egg roll. No, that's not it. Ike added one nation under God to the Pledge of Allegiance, according to Jim, one of our listeners.
Oh, okay.
That's not what I'm talking about. Tabitha said pardon a turkey. No, that's not it either.
Wow.
What about, before I get you to the fact and who it was and who did it, did President Taft get stuck in a bathtub?
Thank you to the historychannel.com for providing this information. I will say Taft weighed over 350 pounds.
Big boy.
But
He's a thick boy.
he is a thick boy.
Was he tall?
No, he was round.
Everybody around them was like about 5'4".
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He was built like a rubber ball.
What years was he president?
Early 20th century, so about 100 years ago.
Okay.
But the quote on historychannel.com is that the bathtub in the White House was so big at the time that no president could possibly get stuck in it. Which, if that's not an example of wealth and one percenters, I don't know what is.
Sure.
So he didn't get stuck in a bathtub. The bathtub was too big for even a big guy to get stuck in it.
So it was urban myth.
Yes.
It was like fake news back then.
Do you think his family's pissed that for 100 years people have said he's been stuck in a bathtub?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Picture his he was president in 1909 to 1913.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's got great-great-grandkids or great-grandkids, whatever he has at this point, 100 years later. But, like, they go to a show to go see, like, Papa Roach, let's say.
I follow.
Yeah. And they go to the ticket counter and they go, yeah, we'll call a Taft. And they get their tickets. And then somebody said, oh, I just learned about your great-grandfather. He's the one that got stuck in a bathtub. And then you're sitting there going, basically you just go, no, it's just an urban myth that happened back then. He didn't get stuck in a bathtub.
That's too bad. Taft was from Cincinnati, so maybe he has family here. And in the same way that we've had the relatives of Evel Knievel and Dick Butkus call the show that they listen.
Right.
I'd be so pissed if I was his great-grandkid listening to Brian and Kenzie, and you got to hear him be smeared all over town again.
Hey, look, I'm backing William Howard Taft up on this one.
Is that who you're voting for this year?
Everybody should write in William Howard Taft. Because he was a thick boy. And here's the good thing. He lived to 72 years old.
That's a good life.
So if he was over 300 pounds, that tells you right there that don't listen to all these weight loss commercials and Ozempic and all
Don't
that.
listen to scientists.
He also had a stellar mustache.
Oh, handsome as hell.
He was great.
Yeah. Bring him back.
Well,
I'm sure president of the early 20th century. I'm sure it wasn't all in the open.
all right, so it's not that. Here's the thing that this president did that no one did before him and everybody's done since. And it goes to John Adams, who served much earlier in 1797 to 1801. He's the first president that wore pants.
The boom was so booming.
So here's the thing. All the presidents before him wore these kind of leggings that they tucked socks into. If you ever look at those pictures of every president, there's not that many presidents before him, by the way.
Wasn't it just
Washington?
Yeah.
And I think Jefferson?
I don't think so. I think Adams was number 2.
Let's see. Order of presidents. I'm sorry we're doing this.
Yeah, John Adams was the second one.
Oh, okay.
But that's still, George Washington wasn't wearing pants?
No.
Was he Winnie the Pooh?
He was Winnie the Pooh in it all the time. So John Adams wore full pants. George Washington wore these like kind of knee things, and he tucked them in. Now, George Washington was a strapping guy. He was 6'4" and a quarter. I don't know if you know that.
I did not.
He was a big guy. For that time, he was huge. He was monstrous. And John Adams was not. He was more like a Taft guy. He's a short, thick boy. He wasn't 300, but he was around that range.
He had that famous Taft body type.
Yeah. But this brings up the question to me. Like, would you trust or have more trust if Biden walked out with some Zubas on? Some Zubaz? Like, what pants do you trust a president in?
I don't trust a president in Zubaz. I don't trust a president in shorts. Can you imagine if Biden came out and looked like he was in Good Charlotte and was wearing like baggy Volcom cargo shorts?
Well, you don't remember this, but Clinton used to go jogging in those real, like, my balls are almost out jogging shorts.
Is that the brand? My balls are almost out?
Yeah, look it up. Balls are almost out. Just go to the Vans website. They probably bought them.
Yeah.
And they own it
There's
now.
a merger. A bunch of people lost their jobs.
Yeah. But Clinton used to go jogging like in these, oh my God, they were embarrassingly short, thin, like fluttery jogging shorts.
I don't remember that. That's interesting.
Because he was always eating McDonald's fries. So people were like, he was heavy, even though he really wasn't that heavy compared to like today. But he went jogging all the time to show like, hey, I work out. I'm just a little thick. I can't help it. Yeah.
Because I would think presidents fall under the same category that Italian mafia leaders, Dons, fall under because they don't wear shorts. And if you remember in the first episode of The Sopranos, there's a scene where Tony wears shorts.
Yes.
And he got a call, James Gandolfini did, from a real-life mafia member saying, hey, we don't do that. Don't ever wear shorts again.
And they actually worked that into the show.
They did.
When Carmine from New York said, Dons don't wear shorts.
That's right.
I know. And then Tony was like, just almost had a panic attack over that.
I have breaking news on the text line, Brian.
Oh, no.
We talked about how we've had the relatives of Evel Knievel and Dick Butkus listen to the show.
Yeah.
Adam from Palatine checked in. His wife is related to President Taft.
No! No way! Holy crap!
God, this show reaches everybody.
Can they
This is fantastic.
Can he call up or she call up in the next break? Can we get him
I'll
on?
see what I can do.
Let's get him on the phone and see if people, when she goes to like a Papa Roach show, always bring up, did your great-great-grandfather get stuck in a toilet?
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q 101.
21 Pilots tickets coming up a little over a half hour away at 7:20. It's Brian and Kenzie on Q101. Now, we did the fact that makes your brain go. That stated that John Adams was the first president to wear full pants because George Washington wore like pantaloons and like it's like knickers stuffed in the socks. It got into a little bit of a president conversation where we talked about Bill Clinton's balls almost out shorts.
Yeah, that's right.
Which a listener just sent a picture on the text line, and now she can't unsee it. I'm sorry I took you down that path, but some people aren't old enough to remember those shorts, and they were terrible.
That's too bad.
They're terrible on people running around in Chicago. I don't know why they're invented. I know they're probably really comfortable, but keep your balls in there. It's just, God.
We don't have a lot of rules around here, but keep your balls in there is one of
Yeah,
them.
it's America here in Chicago, freedom, but just don't wear those. They're not a good look they're not a good look at all. Then it led to Case bringing up, wasn't it the President Taft that got stuck in a bathtub? And I go, I don't know that. Never heard that story, but it turns out it was fake news. That he was big man, he was a thick boy. Now, Adam checked in and said his wife's related to Taft, which is the power of this radio show. Evel Knievel's granddaughter, Dick Butkus' niece.
Yep.
And now we bring Adam from Palatine in, who's married to a woman whose great uncle was President Taft. Welcome in, Adam. Ahoy.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going great. So, how is the relation? Is it a great uncle?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I mean, I never really asked. She just told me she was related to him.
Wait a minute. You're on the first or second or third date, and she brings that up, and you don't ask any more information?
We were just going through a list of people that were famous that we were related to.
And she threw that one out there?
Yeah.
And then you didn't ask any follow-up questions?
I may have. We've been together for over a decade. That was a long time ago.
Well, I hope you bring it up today.
Yeah, please.
We want to follow.
Okay.
We want to follow up tomorrow at 6:44 a.m. I want you to call back after you get this information. Maybe take your wife to a nice lunch, and then talk about the relationship to William Howard Taft, the former president.
You got it.
All right. Now, did she ever bring up the story about how he was stuck in a bathtub?
No, unfortunately, that never came up. She doesn't have the Taft. She never had the Taft name, so I don't think it was ever brought up to her.
Huh. Okay. Because I just was curious if that kind of thing followed her. You know what I mean? I guess her name isn't Taft, so my scenario of going to a ticket window to see Papa Roach and the person saying, hey, wasn't it your great uncle that got stuck in a bathtub? And she's like, oh.
Not this again.
Not this again.
Yeah, no, that situation never came up. I assume because she didn't have the name.
Yeah. You guys don't have Secret Service, do you? You have a protection crew?
No.
Oh.
That's too bad.
That is too bad.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
It would be nice, especially going to see Papa Roach,
Exactly.
to have Secret Service clear the way for you to get to the front row would be really nice.
We have Tafts in the building. Everybody clear the way.
They're big, you know?
Yeah, they're big people.
Well, listen, Adam, I appreciate you calling in. Please go to lunch with your wife, do something nice for her today, and then ask her all kinds of questions about Taft, about the bathtub situation. And he lived to 72 years old.
Yeah, if she feels shame because her great uncle allegedly got stuck in a bathtub, that can follow people throughout life. I wouldn't want her to feel shame for that.
Did your wife change her name to get away from the Taft name?
Is she ashamed of the Taft presidency? These are all questions we need to know, Adam, okay?
Yeah, did she ever get any kind of special privileges being, I guess, what's a great uncle? Is that a grand niece?
Sure.
I guess?
Yeah, I know she never got any special privilege or anything. And she didn't change her name. She comes from, basically, there's just a lot of women in that family.
Oh, my man.
So.
I didn't know Taft was putting it down like that. I love it when you call me Big Papa.
He only makes the ladies. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q 101.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q 101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101. 720, 21 Pilot Seconds coming up. Gil Curtis in a second. And we're talking about people you're related to a little bit, just kind of molded into that conversation where a listener's wife is the grand niece of Big Papa Taft, former president of the United States back in the day. It's been an interesting first 20 minutes of the show on this side from 6:30 to here.
If you're just joining us, President Taft will now only be referred to as Big Papa Taft. There are allegedly a lot of women in that family. My man got busy, probably in a bathtub.
That's right. It didn't get stuck in there either,
No,
according
he
to
didn't
fake
get
news.
stuck in there. Fake news.
630 checked in, though, said his last name is Bartman.
Oof.
And people always say to him, he's not related to Steve Bartman, but he always says, oh, how's Steve doing? People say that all the time to him. Kind of like my Papa Roach reference to the Taft family there of like, oh, he was stuck in a bathtub. Oh, I'm sure my man there does that all the time. Oh, I'm not related to Steve Bartman. I'm sure he's doing great. He got wronged by Moises Alou.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think of that whole thing. He wastes a minute or two of all his conversations the rest of his life. Speaking of which, sports, we'll get to that in 10 minutes at 7 o'clock. Go Cubs, go! A historic opening day after the Brian and Kenzie wonderful broadcast from Almost Home Tavern and Grill, which was amazing yesterday. The pictures and videos are up at Q101's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But let's get to Gil Curtis with your headlines of the day here.
This is not headline news. April is National Stress Awareness Month. Actually, so is every month until the presidential election in November. April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. I think that's what the headline said, but I drove up a curb while I was reading my phone on the way to work. Apple turned 48 yesterday, while their average iPhone assembly worker turned 8. Hackers leaked the private data of millions of AT&T users. Hey, that's our job, said TikTok. And a 94-year-old Ohio woman plans to visit all 7 continents, which would make her the first person to visit all continents while incontinent. This is not headline news.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q 101.